Let's talk about creating a functioning wardrobe for the living historian, mid to late 1860s style, the era of the elliptical hoop. Hi everyone, my name is Caitlin, and on this channel I teach old-fashioned sewing skills and we make reproduction clothing. And part of that, of course, is curating a wardrobe for myself. I am not a professional living historian, I am mostly a hobbyist. But I do several different time periods, and what I'm trying to currently do is go through my wardrobe and streamline things to make sure I don't have excess of things, but also that I'm not having any gaps. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back, and if you're new here, hi, welcome. I have 20 plus years experience in sewing, and I have 12 plus years experience within living history as a hobby and somewhat as a profession, if you count like half a year doing that professionally as a profession, and it was only part of my profession. So technically, but not really. I no longer work in the museum setting. My husband is a curator now, so technically I am frequently over there, and I'm an honorary staff member because I'm there frequently enough, and I put up exhibits and things like that. So I sort of am still in the museum world, although not, again, technically professionally. I do, however, keep a small collection of original garments to study from, and most of the time we try to copy these when I have those available, or at the very least I will show you pictures and tell you, okay, I have studied this in original, so this is what we're going to do, and this is why we're doing it, this is why they did it, so we're going to copy it. And so again, through my videos, typically we are doing things like sewing historical era clothing and just generally talk about things that revolve around living history. So I have been slowly working to improve my historical wardrobe, again by fixing the gaps and eliminating any excess pieces because, you know, storage space issues. So we have done the very late 1860s to very early 1870s wardrobe. We have done the hoop era wardrobes, like early 1860s, and I've also done a video on my natural form wardrobe, which is my newest time period. So this time I figured we'd kind of bridge the gap. So we have most of the 1870s done now, but we're missing a gap in the 1860s. So I figured we'd go ahead and fill that, so at least we'd have 1860-ish to like 1883. All of that time period covered. So what I'm calling this is basically the elliptical hoop skirt era, or the elliptical skirt shape era. So where the skirt shape went from being that pretty little bell, and it slowly evolved over time. Like there was always a little bit more in the back than there was in the front. In the mid 1860s, around 1863 to about 1867, we started to see this shape that's a little bit flatter in front and then very full and sloping in the back, and that's basically called an elliptical shape. So again, my goal for this wardrobe is to have as physically few pieces as possible while still doing the vast majority of what I do, which for this time period, I do things that are very working class all the way up to needing ball gowns and lace trims. So there will be more pieces, but we're going to try to get away with as little as possible. And this type of video is going to be helpful to the new living historian who needs to know what they need and how to build a wardrobe. And honestly, it's just really about evaluating who you would be in the whatever century you are, and 19th, 18th, 12th century, I don't really care. It's kind of all the same thing, but figuring out who you are, how many clothes they would have had, and then scale it down. So if you're only attending like day events, like you're day tripping it out, you don't need nearly as many articles of clothing as, say, someone who does it as a profession. So, you know, 4 to 5 days a week they are working in that time frame and they need a lot more clothes. Even if you're a volunteer, if you're doing weekend events, so you're getting there either Thursday night or Friday, staying to Sunday, you're gonna need more clothes than someone who's just day tripping. So it really is evaluating that as well. So part of it is knowing what they would have had back in the day to live a full life, and then like paring it down and then realizing, okay, they had a lot of coats. I only do living history in the spring and summer, so I don't need any of the winter stuff. And just eliminating from there. So taking the whole historic wardrobe and eliminating the pieces you know you don't need, or say, okay, well, the average person would have had maybe 5 to 10 dresses. I'm only doing this for a 3-day event. I can probably get away with, you know, I don't portray someone super wealthy, I can get away with this many dresses. Processing through who you're portraying. If you're portraying more than one social class in that era, then obviously you're going to have more clothes, because sometimes what works for a very working class is not going to work for someone who's super wealthy. Sometimes you can get away with the same basic dress and just changing out accessories, and sometimes you can't. It just kind of varies. Now again, I'm a volunteer now, so the most events I will do at one time would be about a 3-day event. So in no way am I going to need an actual 1860s ladies wardrobe. And again, I'm also doing different social classes. So although my living historian wardrobe is not necessarily accurate in the amount of pieces, all the pieces themselves will be accurate, even though we're not creating an actual 1860s wardrobe. So as per typical, if you've seen more of these videos from me, you know I have a lovely Excel spreadsheet that is color-coded with all my pieces, and I will show you that at the end. So as a quick side note, any of the projects or any of the garments that come up that we talk about that I have done on the channel, I will link them. YouTube only allows me to link 5 videos up here for you per video. So I will put some of them up there. Other than that, I'm going to put them down here to say, hey, there's a video, and the link for that will be in the description. So if you see a picture or something that I'd like to see how she made that, and then there's like a little blue thing, if there's a little blue blurb down here, there should be a number on there. You just go to the description, go to that number, and I'll link the video for you. So let's begin our discussion on footwear. So stockings do not really change throughout most of the 19th century, which I do a lot of 19th century stuff. So I have lots and lots of stockings that will work for this time period, which is good because I run through stockings like nobody's business. They get so dusty and dirty, even when I'm inside. I don't understand why. I really don't. But I carry probably, so for a 3-day event, I'll bring like 5 or 6 pairs of stockings. Because yes, I go through that many. So I have 4 pairs of white cotton reproduction stockings, 2 pairs of heavy wool stockings, which are great when you're camping outdoors and it's winter. I have 1 pair of light wool stockings, which I do need to get a second pair of those because I love those stockings. And I have 2 pairs of black silk stockings that would work for this time period. I probably do need to get some white silk stockings eventually because that would be a little bit more common for like evening wear and that sort of thing. And the black ones are nice, and they're also very warm, so they work again well for winter. I have had complaints on these videos about me not showing enough of the garments that I've made, so here's a picture of my sock drawer. It also houses garters, which I have several that will work for this era. Most of them are, well, all of them are actually elastic, because elastic garters did start to be a thing in the mid-19th century. I based mine off a couple of originals, one pair in particular, which I think is in the collection of Kate Brewer. But it was basically, I call it a jacquard design. It's like little dots. It's like little diamonds. They're not dots. They're like diamonds, and blue ground with the white diamonds. And it's just a little elastic, and it's like a tiny little 1-inch belt clasp, which I haven't been able to find a really good one. So I have I call them a lock and key clasp, where you have to put one and you twist it and it clasps. I do need to add the period word from my understanding is pushels. But basically pom-poms on either side to make them even more accurate. I just had not done so yet. But I have a couple. I have like a purple set, and I have the reproduction jacquard set, and then I have a tan striped set and a pink striped set, and then also a green and red striped set. So all of those work really well for this particular time period as well. I do have that one plain purple set. All of the originals I have seen so far have either been in stripes or in some sort of pattern, so I don't know if the solid color ones are really that accurate. I don't wear them anymore. I should probably just get rid of them. I don't wear them because I have other options that, at least from my current understanding, are far more accurate. So probably just need to get rid of those. This is my favorite type of garter of any time frame. I can get them to stay on, they stay up, and they function, and my stockings don't fall down. I love these garters. Now for shoes, I currently own some Amazon dry goods side lacers that are falling apart. They have so many holes in them. I mean, most of the sole is coming off, at least of the toe part. On either side of the toe. I think the toe itself is good, but on either side of the toe, on both feet, I think there's a big old gaping hole. Mended ones work great for working class and even middle class, but some nicer walking boots are definitely in order for this time period. And shoes don't change too terribly much, so if I get a set, I could make them work for like 1855 to probably about 1875, which will be helpful. I do technically have a pair of American Duchess Renoirs, I think is how you pronounce that have held up surprisingly well. I have not had the greatest of luck with American Duchess shoes, but those have held up pretty well. The only thing is that those staying buttons, I cannot get the dang buttons to stay on. I have sewn them through with upholstery linen wax thread, and they still pop off. within a wear. I don't know what's going on. I cannot get them to stay. I work with leather. I have made shoes before, and I have never had an issue, but these buttons will not stay on, and it irritates the daylights out of me. So I do not tend to wear those as often. I also do have some black sateen dancing slippers that have a heel, so they work for 1865 and later, like through the 1880s. And then for like the 1863 and 1864 time frame, where I don't see heeled slippers as much on originals, I do have a basically flat, it has a tiny little, it's like less than a half-inch heel, that are also black sateen dancing slippers. Those are American Duchess, and those are probably American Duchess shoes that have held up the best for me. I really, really like them. And technically I do have a pair of embroidered Berlin wool work slippers that I did embroider myself, and I made it myself to match a wrapper that I think I actually just sold. Which is why those slippers are on display in a museum. So I need to make myself a second pair. I just made myself a brand new wrapper that would work for this time period, so I feel like I need matching slippers. That could be a fun project. Plus the slippers I have right now are on display in a museum, so it's hard to get access to them. So I really do need some nice lounging slippers for housewear. And that's basically my footwear. So let's talk about body linen or underpinnings now. So my very early 1860s and late 1850s chemises will technically work. They wouldn't be the height of fashion, but you still see what I call the straight yoke chemises in this style. The embroidered one would probably work the best because it has a smaller yoke. The others that have the wider yoke in my research so far are earlier time frames. And chemises and such, they wear out really quickly. So having one that's 10 years out of date is just really not feasible. So I could definitely get away with the embroidered one. I do have my wedding chemise, which can be a little bit later as well. So I have that one. I technically have in process, and it's been in process for like 5-ish years now, a very beautiful shaped yoked embroidered one. I think I have both sleeves entirely embroidered. I know I have at least one sleeve done. And I have maybe a third of the yoke done. So if I actually sat down and finished that, we could have a fully embroidered, full-on shaped yoke chemise, which would be very nice. Then I have to embroider the drawers to match. So that'll be fun. I'm not even going to count the 2 straight yoke chemises that are wider that are on display at the museum, because I don't feel like it's worth. They're not really for this time period. You could probably get away with them, but I wouldn't because I have other options. So I'm not going to count them in my spreadsheet. I am going to count the one plain straight yoke that is kind of wider and a little bit earlier until I can get another option, because this is a time period where I will do 3-day events. And my general rule for underwear is 1 to wear for each day of the event plus a spare. So I would typically bring at least 3 chemises to a 3-day event. I would prefer to have 4, but I've gotten away with 3. I have technically done 2, and then if it got really nasty, I would wash the first chemise in whatever water source we had access to, and then let it dry overnight, and I could have technically a fresh one the next day. So bare minimum 2, but it's no fun doing laundry the period way, so I prefer to bring 3. And I do hate drawers. I really, really hate them. I hate sewing them. I hate wearing them. I just hate them. But I do have them, and this is a time period where it's really hard to get away with not wearing them. So I do have each chemise has a matching set of drawers. So that is taken care of. I have at least 3 sets that I can wear. Eventually I will get the hand embroidered ones done. It may take another 5 years, but it'll eventually get done. I have 2 corsets that work for this time period. My old blue one is on display at the museum. I love that corset. It is my favorite corset. And I'm very sad it's on display, but it is falling apart. So it was the most humane choice for that corset. So my current corset is a white one that we made for my wedding. It is hand embroidered on the top. It's beautiful. And it fits really well. It's really comfortable. It is too big for me now because I have lost weight. So I need to actually fix that. And I have an event like I have an event in like 2-3 weeks. It's 3 weeks from now. So yeah, I need to fix that corset. It's killing me. I've been needing to do it for several months now, and I'm just dealing with a very large corset, which is super uncomfortable because it moves on you, and I don't like that feeling. I'd rather have a corset that is slightly too tight than slightly too loose. Obviously a perfectly fitted corset is the best, but I'd rather have one that's a little too tight than too loose. and this one is much too loose. And probably once I take it in, I will likely have to do not so fun things like having to refit all my dresses, because I'm assuming that my waist is going to go down when I actually fix that corset, which is one other reason I haven't done it. But I did hand embroider that corset, and I'm really upset that I have to take it apart now to refit it. And I really don't want to, because I don't want to take out that beautiful embroidery. But it's something that I actually do need to do. It's getting to the point where it is just too not fun to wear, unfortunately. So I do need to get that done. So for petticoats, I have several white petticoats that can go underneath skirt supports. Some are hand sewn, some are machine sewn. I had the machine sewn because I've started with machine sewn eras, and I moved down into hand sewn only eras. So I had to make, the basic petticoat shapes don't change. I had to make hand sewn petticoats. So I technically could get rid of the machine sewn ones and just have hand sewn ones for the whole. It would fit for basically 1820s up until the 1880s, the very base layer petticoats. And I would only need like 2 of those, but I do have like several of them now. And also each chemise and drawer set does have a matching petticoat, because I don't know, I'm weird. So apparently I had to have matching petticoats for everything. So when those wear out, they will not be replaced. And I probably could take some of them apart now and make like kids' clothes out of it. That would be super comfortable because they're already kind of worn in. But I also wear those petticoats for modern wear, so maybe I don't want to do that. Maybe I want to have the excess and just retire some of them to modern clothes only, and only keep like 2 in the historical wardrobe. For winter, I do have 1 flannel petticoat that I can wear. On the list eventually is going to be a quilted petticoat, but I think it's going to be for an earlier time period than this one, so I don't think I'll have that. Technically, if we want to get very technical, I did start a knitted petticoat, again, like 6 years ago. I have a lot of projects I started like 5, 6, 7 years ago. Actually, it's probably been longer. It's probably been like 8 years that I got bored with and never finished. So that petticoat is over halfway done. It is on display at the museum. Because if it's on display at the museum, I have an excuse for not finishing it. Okay? That's my reason. Oh, it's on display. I can't finish it. It's on display. So, yeah, that was my little genius hack for not having to finish it. But technically that is a thing that I could finish and have a nice woolen knit petticoat that would be very soft. I think that was an earlier pattern. I want to... was that the late 1850s pattern? I know there's one from 1864 that was a knitted pattern, but that wasn't this one. I chose the fancier, prettier one that was more intense knitting because it's me. There's also a fancy embroidery petticoat, but that is also on display, so I don't get to wear that one. I would just wear like a tucked one or something for you. This is for working wear. This would be beyond the useful era of the corded petticoat, so those really aren't worn at this time period. So it's not something that I need. I just wear a second petticoat, likely wool. I do have 2 of those. One is on display at the museum, my plaid one, and then my brown one is the one I have at the house, and I wear that one all the time. It's a great petticoat for working wear. I can wear that from 1820s all the way up into, this is the last time period it's useful. So really by around 1865 to 1867, it wouldn't be shaped the way it's shaped. So it is very much a working petticoat for the first half of the 19th century, minus the Regency period. We don't count that period because I don't really do that period. For fancier stuff, I do have 2 crinolines that work for this time period. I have my wedding hoop skirt, which is really in the shape of 1864 to 1865. And then I have my super elliptical bright red crinoline that I did base off on original. Red is the period correct color for crinolines. It's not very common, but it is period correct. And that can work for 1865 to 1867. For upper petticoats and underskirts, of course, I can't wear my usual ones because of the elliptical shape. You need something that's more shorter in front and much longer in the back. So I can't wear what I would wear for my more rounded hoop. So I know I have a plain underskirt that works. I have my wedding underskirt, which was specifically made to go over the wedding crinoline, which would be the earlier one, the 63 to 64 crinoline. And I'm pretty sure there's one that has an embroidered trim on it that's also elliptical. I don't know if I've taken that one apart to make other things with. I know I have at least one that would work. There might be 2. And I do have 2 nightgowns and nightcap sets that would work. So I have my my plain tucked cotton one is great for like summer wear. And I have my Canton flannel night dress that needs to be rebraided because I braided it in yarn when I made it many years ago. And so I have the braid to redo it, and that's going to be a project in a couple of months. I actually have it on the schedule, so that will be getting done this year because it is high overdue. Now for dresses, this is pretty easy because I don't have a lot. I just finished one blue cotton dress that will work for this time period. It's a very nice one. It has the coat sleeves to it. It's great for this era. It can be worn without a hoop or with a very small hoop. I will need another one. I need like a really nice working era dress for this time period. Actually, and I have plans. I've had plans for over 10 years to recreate a very specific dress. It is the first original dress that I have ever studied, I ever got my hands on. I was working at a museum. It was in the collection, and it was a circa 1865 red semi-sheer plaid dress, and I'm currently looking for a good lawn that would be a really good reproduction of that, because I really want to recreate this dress. It's on my list of things. It's been on my list of things to do for quite a while. When I first studied that dress, I didn't do that elliptical shaped time period. I did earlier 1860s. And so now that I actually do this time frame and I can justify that dress, I really, really want it. So I'm looking forward to that. It's been a priority it's been at least 10 years. I think it's been more like 11 or 12. So maybe as a treat, I could actually go back to the museum I worked at and we can study the dress on camera. I'd have to ask. No one I worked with actually works there anymore. I do know the people who work there because I volunteered under them a few times, but I would have to ask if that would be okay, because that would be awesome to go back there. There's actually several things I need to go back and study at that museum. And then I have a black wool dress that I made for a morning outfit. So I have full morning accessories for that gown. But if I took the collar and cuffs off, which is actually how it is right now, and put a white collar and undersleeve set on it, then it's a perfectly functional, best dress for like a working or middle class lady, or just like an everyday dress for an upper class lady. It's a very versatile gown. We refitted the whole thing on the channel, so it was an early 1860s, late 1850s gown, and I made it elliptical by doing a whole ton of piecing in the back of it that you really can't tell when it's being worn. It's actually one of my favorite pieces that I have done, because that's where I learned how to love. That project in itself is how I learned to love piecing and remaking garments, because I would really much prefer to make a whole new outfit than to refit or redesign an existing one. And that is not a 19th century mindset, and I am trying to get myself out of that. So that was where I really started to love piecing and remaking, was that particular project. I can't believe it turned out so well, and I absolutely love it. So yeah, so that is a thing we did on the channel. And it is a dual purpose gown. It's a morning gown, and it's actually more than dual purpose, because again, it can be very fancy. It can be the nicest dress for working class or middle class. It can be upper middle or leisure class. It can be the everyday basic dress, and it also functions as a morning gown as well. So it's like super versatile. I absolutely love that dress. And then I have two silk dresses. I have an earlier 1863 to 1865 black silk. That was one of the first dresses we made on the channel. I started collecting original garments. It was the very first bodice I purchased, and we recreated the whole thing. It didn't have a skirt, so I kind of had to look at fashion plates and determine, okay, what could have the skirt looked like to this bodice, and I recreated the thing. And we also made an evening bodice to match, essentially. So I have an evening and a day silk dress that would be really nice as well. It's a basic black silk, so it works great. It's not a morning dress at all. It can never be morning. It's too shiny because it's a nice silk taffeta. But it'd be great as a best dress for working or middle class, or again as an everyday dress for leisure class, and even a nicer dress if I could probably fancy it up with some accessories to make it even nicer, leisure class. So it's another very versatile dress. And then there is my all-time favorite dress that I've ever made. The red silk late 1860s dress. I'm a sucker for the elliptical shaped hoop skirts. I love the shape of those skirts. It's like my favorite time period. I absolutely love it. And this dress, I based it off one in the Met. The only thing I really changed, if I remember correctly, would be like the belt. I made they're not bretelles. I made the tabs longer because I found fashion plate and I like that look better. But it is a red and black shot silk dress. I trimmed it with miles of original Maltese lace, at least the ball gown part. And it is my favorite dancing dress. It is a beautiful dress. And some of my favorite pictures are in that dress because it just has the most beautiful back skirt shape. I love that gown. It really is just a stunning dress. So yes, that is my favorite dress I've probably ever made. I mean, there's a lot of dresses that have a very special place in my heart, but that one, I like that one. I also do technically have 2 functioning wrappers, meaning I can use them. The sleeve shapes, which are bishop sleeves, would be a little bit out of style. A coat sleeve would be better. So maybe eventually I'll get myself a nice wrapper for this time period, but as of right now, I'm just going to use the paisley wrapper and then the black wrapper that I just made for fancy stuff. And then the paisley one can just be for my regular working wrapper. It actually kind of functions as a dress too. When I have it on, you can't tell it's a wrapper, except for the self fabric belt. Now with accessories, starting with aprons. So I have a maroon half apron, a white linen half apron, a gray pinner apron, a white pinner apron, and then a print pinner apron. The white pinner apron does have staining that I do need to take care of. I also have a ton of gloves for this era, little tiny wrist length kid leather gloves. Mine came from a estate sale, so it was a lady who passed away who in the 40s and 50s had a whole bunch of gloves. Happened to be my glove size, so I have like 10 pair of gloves now. So I have a green pair and a pink pair and a white pair. I have 2 black leather pairs. I have 2 black pairs and I have a brown pair. So I guess it's not really that many. It's like 7 or 8. But also in that lot, I did get like some really long opera length gloves for 1880s and then a couple of like stretchy fabric gloves, which do work well for vintage. They don't work well for, of course, mid 19th century, but they work well for mid 20th century, which I do that also. For jewelry, my mother-in-law gave me a nice cameo set that will work for this time period. I probably do need to get the earrings reset into like a period setting. But other than that, it's perfectly appropriate. I have various reproduction watch chains and a couple of reproduction watches, as well as a original pocket watch that is probably a little bit later, but it does work. I have lots of reproduction earrings and brooches, mostly from Beth Miller Hall. I have two of her belt buckles. I also have I also have 3 metal belt buckles from ensembles of the past. And then lots and lots of belting ribbon in just about every color. I have 2 black velvet belts. I have, again, belting ribbon in every color. So whatever belts I want to wear with the dress, I have belts and belt buckles for that. For parasols, I do collect them, so I have more for this time period, but I'm only going to talk about the recovered ones that I would actually use for living history. So I have an 1863 American-made Marquis black parasol. It's like a basic everyday parasol. I have an 1865 version as well, but that one has been recovered for mourning. So that one's specifically for my 1867 mourning ensemble. There's also a mid-1860s parasol with a gorgeous original Chantilly lace cover that I had recovered in purple. It came to me in a really bad silk charmeuse, stretchy, it was awful, it was bad, cover. It had already been recovered, so I didn't feel bad about taking it apart and re-recovering it, and I'm happy with the color of it. Those Chantilly parasols came in all sorts of different colors. I do believe the original was probably cream because the tassel is cream and usually those match. So I probably should retake it apart and do it again, but that's one of my best recovery jobs to date, like the fewest wrinkles, so I really don't want to. I also have 2 fichus, or like little very light shawls, small shawls. I don't know how to describe a fichu. It's like a little cover for evening wear. I kept 2. They will work for this time period. I do have 3, although technically 4, because one is on display, but 3 to 4 functioning neckerchiefs for working wear. I am going to need to make some more, and those will be on the channel because I've not made those on the channel before. I think for visual people, I think a video needs to happen for that. So that will be on the to-do list. So for bonnets, I have 2 sunbonnets. I have a striped corded sunbonnet from an 1859 pattern that I really don't like, so it is on display. And then my favorite plaid slat bonnet that does need new slats, so eventually I'll have to take care of that as well. For fashion bonnets, I have a white straw 1863 bonnet that's on display. That's probably my best bonnet for 1863-ish. And then I have a little silk, they're called Marie Stuart bonnets, so they have like little shaping in them. I just found that bonnet actually, so I didn't realize I still had that bonnet. So that's nice, I have that now. There's also a blue straw 1865 bonnet, and the same bonnet basically, but it's recovered in mourning black silk crepes, and it has the mourning veil. So that's for my mourning ensemble specifically. I can't wear that otherwise. I have lots of evening floral headdresses that I will just mix and match with whatever evening dress I'm wearing. We made those on the channel. They don't really change too much in style. I mean, I have some that are very 1850s because they're very full, like right here. And then I have like little combs and bits that I can, and bits and bobs and such that I can just stick in my hair for pretty much any time period. I also have a lot of hair nets that I don't ever wear, but I like to wear. So if I ever get the opportunity, I will be wearing them again. And I have at least one breakfast cap. I know of the maroon one. Somewhere, at some point in time, I had a light blue one that I really, really loved that shape. It's a really easy shape to make up. It was really flattering, and I haven't seen it in ages. And I'm really kind of upset because that material that I made that out of, it's like $70 a yard. And yeah, I only used like a tiny little square of it, but yeah, I'm really upset that I'm missing that actually. I need to find it if I still have it. And then finally, outerwear. So I have about 4 shawls I can use for this. A purple one with black silk edging. I have a jacquard that is lined in black silk. There's a wool trimmed red fur one, and those are my reproduction shawls. I have 2 original shawls I work for this time period. There's a red one that does have some moth damage from before I got it, but I can arrange it in a way where you can't see it. Then I have a very nice black paisley shawl that I absolutely love. I also have my 1864 crochet jacket, which is like, this is the perfect time for it. And a knitted Sontag. And probably both of those together are about mostly what I use for keeping warm. Especially in working class, because holding a shawl over I find very cumbersome when I'm actually doing stuff. If I'm walking around or if I'm sewing, then yeah, I can wear a shawl. But other than that, I like the jacket or I like the Sontag. For fancier stuff as well, I do have mantles. I have 2 mantles. I have one that's wool. It is very nice, and it has a matching hood. Then I have a maroon velveteen one that eventually I guess I'll have to make a matching hood for it, because I don't have one that goes with that. And then I have 2 muffs, a black one, and then I have an ermine one that we did on the channel. And also, I made a collar, or I think the technical term, at least on the Met, was a tippet. But it's like a giant fur collar. I made that of ermine too. So this is like perfect time period for that stuff. And that is essentially my 1863 to 1867 capsule wardrobe. So before we go, I will share my wardrobe Excel sheet with you. It is very simple, but it is pretty and it's color coded, and I love it. Green means that the garment is done, ready to wear, and in good condition. Yellow can mean 2 things. 1, that it is cut but not made up, or 2, that it is made up but is in need of some sort of mending or fixing or refitting before wearing. And then red is a project that is not yet started, or that I need to purchase materials for. And then I added in blue because blue is all the stuff that's on display, because otherwise I will forget what I have on display and then freak out because I can't find any of my stuff. So there's not a lot of red for this era, and that's because it's mostly already done. But there are still a few projects that I do need to complete. I like color coding this type of thing. It helps me with packing when I'm packing for events. Say I have an 1864 event, I can go through it and go, okay, I can, without a lot of thought, put together a whole packing list, and it's very easy to see okay, this needs to be mended before I can use it. Oh, I need to fix this before I can use it. Or this is ready to go, or I will need to make something for this event. It's just really easy for me when I go to pack to see what is done, what needs to be fixed, and what I can already use for this time period. Having the color codes is also something that keeps me very focused because I like changing it from red or orange to green. So that keeps me motivated on the things I need to work on as opposed to the things I might want to work on. And that's about it for my late 1860s wardrobe. If you've enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe to the channel, click that little bell notification so you're notified anytime I upload a new video. And as always, have a fantastic week, and I'll see you back here in the next video.